I know a couple people haven't been able to attend, so we're going to post it on the Canvas course shell for them to view. So, once again, welcome. I'm glad you could attend. By the way, if you're attending this initial meeting, you do not have to attend the one tomorrow on Tuesday. That one is just a follow-up meeting for those who can't get to this one. So hopefully that was clear in the announcements. So as I was saying, what I want to do is I want to share the layout of my Canvas course and how we deal with things like homework, exams, and the like. So one of the things I need to do is to share my screen. And there it is. So this is my Canvas page. Yours will look a little bit different. Here, hold on. Let me stop the sharing for just a moment. And let me admit that particular individual. Here, hold on. Let me turn up my volume too. You're not that easy to hear. Okay, good. There we go. So let's see. This works best if I stop my video and share my screen. All right. So as I was saying, this is the screen that I see. I'm going to look at the Math 131093. This one is exactly the same as the 1113 in terms of layout. And it, if you're in one class or the other, it's not going to make any difference. So if you log in, this is what you see. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to student view at first here. And this is exactly pretty much what you guys see here. And that is really just the lead in the opening page. There's nothing of fundamental import there other than the name of the course and a few pithy quotations. What I want to do is I want to go over the syllabus in some detail. So let me go ahead and take care of that. All right, so this is the syllabus for our course, and it sets out exactly how we like to run our course, what things are due when for the most part, and deadlines and interaction time and the like. So there is no prerequisite for this class. Students coming out of high school will place into Math 13 without exception, unless perhaps they want to place into something like calculus or pre-calculus. But in general, there is no prerequisite for this course. This is, though, an online course, and you are required to respond to questions and posts on discussion boards from time to time. I'll go over that in just a moment. And you'll have access to various discussions, and you do not need permission to post. However, most discussions do have a due date. I tend to use the discussions as a way of making sure students are still involved in the course. And we do expect you to respond in a timely fashion. And the way our laws work regarding distance ed classes, if I do not receive any meaningful contact from my students within 72 hours, I am required to drop those students. This basically is for their own good, so I can, or they can go ahead and get a refund for their course if it was an error, or try to figure out exactly what is going on. But in any case, you'll need to respond within 72 hours to an initial discussion, and I'll show that to you in just a few moments. And that gets us to our first census, which is really an important point in terms of our college and our school. But having you respond within 72 hours is really the important component. I've probably said that now 4 or 5 times. I hope I hope that is conveyed. I do keep track of attendance, and students who do not participate will be dropped at various points during the semester. And again, this is so we don't have to give students an F at the end of the semester if they had something come up, some sort of issue, crisis, or perhaps just moved on to something else. Now, some dates of import. The last day to drop this class without it appearing on your transcripts is 9/7/23. So basically a week from Friday. The last day to drop with a refund is the day after that. So at any point in time, if you wish to drop the class, you can do so. You'll do that through your PAWS self-service. And the last day to drop the class with a W, that's all the way in November the 17th. I will remind students as that point gets close. And the course does end the 16th of December, and then it's all done. Assessments. Quizzes and homework collections will be announced at least 2 or 3 days in advance, and honestly, quite a bit further than that. Exams will be announced approximately 1 week in advance of the test date. And our final exam is online. Hold on, something just popped up. Sorry, let me start over again. The final exam is online during the week of December 10th, and it's available the 14th and the 15th of the end of the semester. So that's December 14th and 15th. I believe it's a Thursday and a Friday. You'll have a 2-day window to take that final exam. And by the way, that 2-day window is fairly constant for how I run my quizzes and my exams. They're usually open for a couple of days, and you can dip in at any point in that time and take the exam. Next up are a list of topics. This is the part that honestly should be really confusing because this is what we're going to learn this semester. We're going to study the measures of central tendency, dispersion, and position. We'll delve into graphic presentation, sampling, and frequency distributions. We'll work with what we call linear correlation and regression, probability and their distributions, variability of all different types, inferences and confidence intervals, and a bunch of other stuff, chi-squared tests, analysis of variance, and non-parametric tests. And it's basically a course for students who are headed off into business or the social sciences, biological sciences, education, and the humanities. But bottom line, anyone can find utility in this course. And anyone who makes any sort of a living at some point in time in STEM will definitely need a statistics course. So it's very, very important. We make heavy use of technology. We have graphing calculators and computers, mostly graphing calculators, but they are extensively integrated, and I'll go over that integration as we go through this presentation. And as I say, it's really designed for pretty much everyone, anyone into the sciences or liberal arts. You can definitely meet math requirements with this course. And regarding your own individual major requirements, this is where I really push students to work with their academic counselors. They really know their stuff. And really students need to avail themselves of that asset. And now let's talk about supplies. We have 2 spiral notebooks. I tend to think that students like or should have one for note taking and one for homework. It just makes organization easier. No one's going to check on that. However, the next requirement, a TI-84 calculator, this is absolutely 100% required. I'll go over that a little bit more detail in just a moment. Our text is called Mostly Harmless Statistics. It is written by Rachel Webb. It's in its 2nd edition. It is entirely free. It is online. We have a link to it right here. Can you guys see that? So there's our text. It's online. There's a link right there. You do not buy it. You can print it out. You can work with it online. I've had students do both things. But do realize that it is entirely free. Don't purchase any homework access codes or any special homework tools or anything like that. I'll go over the homework process in a bit. That part should not cost you a dime either. Now, most assignments are going to come from your text or will be available in your Canvas shell. And It's an online course, and there is a minimal internet connection that is really required to partake adequately in this course. And I do have to point out, and probably I should put it in big letters somewhere in the syllabus, your smartphone is not an appropriate tool for the most part for working with the material in this course. You really need a larger screen. Your smartphone actually works very well for some aspects of our course, but not all. Now, a little bit more about your TI-84 calculator requirement. It's not an optional purchase. We really can't cover the material without that calculator. Statistics statistics is a tool, is a science that invariably uses some sort of technology. This is not like an algebra class where there is a bunch of longhand work to calculate things. And you'll see why as we work our way through the course. But we very much need some sort of technology, and we use the TI-84. It has some very nice built-in features. It is really, truly designed for our course. So you must get a hold of one of those calculators. It is absolutely required. Once again, we use it everywhere. I have videos, embedded videos that I'll share in just a moment that go over the use of this calculator. So it really needs to be gotten a hold of. Now, in general, if you wanted to buy one, used, 50 to 100 bucks, brand new, maybe 120, $130. But we have a very large calculator checkout capability. We have the ability to loan students calculators for free. There are a limited number, although there are quite a bit. So one of the first things my students will need to do, that would be you guys, is to get yourself to this form and fill it out. Once you fill that form out, you'll be able to pick your calculator up at our library. Do not wait. It's free. Yes, you got to give it back. And if you don't give it back, I'm sure there's some sort of repercussion. But it is 100% free. So I want you to realize that we have a free textbook. There is no homework program requirement. Our calculators are freely available. This should be a true zero-cost course, with the exception of a couple of spiral notebooks and pens and pencils. Any questions so far? You can put them into the chat, or you can let me go ahead and stop my share for a minute and check in. And you can put them into the chat. I see there is one question there. I can often see these when I'm sharing my screen. So let me see. What do we got in here? What would a W mean if we were to drop in November? It would just mean that you have a W on your transcripts. It would show as a W. It means you would not get the credit for the course, but it's not an F. So at the end of the day, that's pretty much what the W does. If you come back after that W and take the class again and pass, it also shows up on your transcripts that you then pass the class. The W also comes into play in one other way. California law states that students can only take a particular class 3 times. If students take a class 3 times and say drop the class 3 times, get a W, and a W, then if they want to take the class a 4th or 5th time, they usually have to pay the full cost of the course themselves. This rarely comes into play, but it is something that W does affect. So let me go ahead and maybe I can ask Juan Martinez to mute his mic, if he would, please. No worries if you can't. Oh, hold on, let me stop my sharing. That's right, I don't like the way this looks on the other screen. There we go. All right. There we go. There's my syllabus. So, grading. Let's talk a little bit about how we deal with your grades. Basically, I calculate your grades very, very simply. I add up the scores you get. That's your points in the top of this funky fraction. And I divide it by the number of points you could have got if you were perfect. And no one ever is, although honestly, with all extra credit, we do have people that occasionally get over 100% at the end of the semester, which is kind of cool. Now, how do we get your points? We have 3 regular exams during the course of the semester. They're 100 points each. There are no makeup exams, but we do drop the lowest of these exam scores. So if you miss an exam, it's a 0, but that 0 will not stay and work its way into your numerator in that points, or more importantly, into the denominator. Pardon me? We have approximately 12 quizzes, although I think it's actually more like 11. Well, no, 12. There's the initial quiz. They're 10 points each. And again, there are no makeup quizzes being offered, but we actually dropped the lowest. There's a little bit of a typo here. It's the lowest 2 quizzes that are dropped. And it's the same for our homework assignments and the chapter reviews. And I'll show you where all of this stuff lives in just a moment. And there are also 4 exam review assignments. And again, we dropped the lowest one there. We also have additional material from time to time. You may need to zoom in to get credit for that. You may need to do something special. And the exam itself, the final exam, that is worth 200 points. And it should be noted that it is not one of the exams that is dropped. That's one of the 3 regular during the semester exams. And I'll show you the layout there in just a moment. So let's see. So that brings us to approximately 640 points, give or take, depending on what we have going on. I use your standard grading scale. 90% and above is the A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 would be the C, 60 to 69 is a D, anything less than 60% is an F. We have learning outcomes. These are broad categories of topics students should be able to address at the end of the semester. This is really what our class likes to accomplish in broad brush strokes. Students should be able to analyze data using appropriate technology to calculate and interpret what we like to call summary statistics. Students will evaluate and assess a data set in context to identify the appropriate inferential procedure for constructing an estimate or making a decision about a population parameter. Students will analyze a sample space to determine probabilities and to identify unusual events. And finally, students will apply the concept of sampling distribution in the context of the central limit theorem to calculate, calculate probabilities. Those are the 4 main topics that we want students to be able to address. All this is embedded in your course material. We do not have special exams for any of this, but it is covered as we work through our semester. Student support. We have student support services here on campus and available online. We are a very inclusive institution, or at least we strive to be. And the learning experience is enhanced when shared as broadly as possible, as I like to note. Department of Supportive Programs and Services coordinates academic accommodations for our students. If you have or suspect you may have a learning disability that impacts your education, we really urge you to contact the DSPS office and determine your eligibility for accommodations. Invariably, a couple of my students every semester wind up going over there, and they find a lot of support there. It's located in the Student Services Building B. You have room 107. We have a phone number. And our director there is Michelle Peter. She is very competent and quite able to get students pointed in the right direction. So we have our student DSPS office. We have our Student Learning Center. That is in room A213. At least I think it is. That has moved around a bit since the pandemic. We have our MESA program, which is for our STEM majors. Students, full-time STEM majors can enroll in the MESA program and get various support and accommodations, such as textbooks, and the like, tutoring, and other kinds of support. We also have our math lab. Right now it is in E217, but again, that tends to move around a little bit. And we have a link here. I'm going to click on that link. So this is the Panther Learning Lab. And I'll have more to say about this as we go through the semester. Students will reach out, excuse me, the Panther Learning Lab will actually reach out to me and ask me what I can do for my students. And at that point, we'll go ahead and dip back into this. We do have a link to do this online. And I know this is an online class, so you may very well need to go ahead and do that entirely online. But do realize that you are also urged to come in and visit with our tutors. We also have the ability now to put full-time faculty, at least sometimes, into the math lab, which is also very, very helpful. You have my contact information. My office is in D268. You have my phone number there, 755-6859, my email, and of course, my name. Office hours. Usually I hold office hours either via Zoom or face-to-face, or sometimes both. On Monday and Wednesday, we'll be doing this in the evening from 7:30 to 8:30, and it will be via Zoom only. On Tuesday and Thursday, we'll do it from 10 to 11, either face-to-face in my office or via Zoom. And again, I'll have links available for the office dates. You'll be able to find the links in your announcements. I usually send them out on an almost daily basis with the links for the daily office hour. We also have one on Friday, 9 to 10 a.m. in room 268, and again, via Zoom. These may change. Honestly, they may. Invariably, something does happen. Why? Because we need to be available for students, and this may not necessarily work for all students the way it needs to. So if you would like something new and something different, then you can go ahead and reach out to me, and maybe we can work with that. I'm also available via appointments at any point in time. This is a 4-credit course. And again, I got to point out, it's taught entirely online. We do expect you to monitor your Canvas account for assignments, material. Your grades, for example, are available in Canvas. I'll show you that in a moment. I'm sure most of you know it already or know of it, but if this is your first experience, we need to go over that also. Let's talk about our assessments. We have no makeup exams or quizzes scheduled. Your lowest in-semester exam score is dropped. Homework is collected via the uploading of images in a variety of formats, and I'll go over that. And it is collected at the end of each chapter. Late assignments are not accepted. Some activities, as I noted up above, may require you to actively participate. The final exam may not be taken early, and it really must be taken to receive a passing grade or a grade that works. What do we mean by a grade that works? A grade of C or better. A grade of D, while passing in some sense, is not transferable, will not meet the requirement. You need to pass a course with a grade of C or better for the material to make its way onto your transcript. I will say for our online etiquette, and we do not do a lot of posting online, but if we do post, it should be timely, and of course, do be polite. We do use our Canvas course management system. It's what we're looking at right now. And if it's not working or you're having issues, you really need to be aggressive in reaching out to me. Some of you who were around last year may remember last fall we had a hacking attack, a ransomware attack, and our entire system, the entire college, was down for literally weeks. In fact, it didn't really recover until the spring semester. In fact, some things still haven't gone back to normal. Let's talk about your student experience. This is an online class. This is going to be challenging. I say with the assistance of a PowerPoint presentation, yes, there's some in there, but quite honestly, that PowerPoint presentation is pretty much old school. And you'll see what I mean in just a moment. We want you to use your time to note items from the presentations as necessary. I promise that every item of import is embedded in somewhere in our presentations. You must stay current with the assigned topics. We have lecture notes available in Canvas. I'll go over that in a moment, but it's in the modules link if some of you want to scroll over real quick and see what's currently available. But this is a transfer level math course, and it's really quite different from other experiences you may have had. The pacing and the rigor really truly mirror what may be found in any four-year college. Students who fall behind early in the semester will be hard pressed to, oh, there's something missing there, hard pressed to keep up and pass. I got to fix that. Online learning can be challenging, and you really have to be self starters. Success or the lack thereof often depends on developing the ability to find focus and discipline. Attention while engaging in online learning is a prerequisite for this success, and distraction must be minimized. You have to complete this course successfully. You have to minimize that distraction. I cannot overemphasize that. This is the internet. Everything is just a click away. All those trashy videos and time wasters, all that clickbait is just like right over there. So it's a real challenge to remain focused. We give you much more responsibility in the educational process. This means consistent attendance absolutely is expected, and timely completion of homework is required. Maturity to attend to these details is really a requisite for success, and the time commitment is substantial. Students are expected to engage in a significant amount of work outside of the material you see directly on your screen. You need to expect between 10 to 12 hours per week outside of our classroom. Inside of the classroom, it's another 4 hours or so. You have about 16 hours worth of work a week to work with. So it becomes important that you start strong, stay strong, and realize that once you get behind, it is really, really a challenge to keep up. We have an emergency statement. This is what we look at if there is an emergency somewhere here on campus or perhaps off campus. I'll let students read through this, but basically we offer notification and a certain amount of direction. Finally, transcription. Your grade for this course will be available for transcripts, I believe, as early as like the 3rd of January, the 24th, 2024. Our our semester wraps up on the 16th, and we usually have to have the grades in by the following Tuesday. So that's around the 20th, give or take. And they get turned around pretty quickly. All right, let me stop my sharing for the moment. And come back here and ask, are there any questions about what you've seen on your syllabus so far? Are you clear as to what it is that we're going to require of you in terms of exams and quizzes and homework? And again, I'll go over specifics in just a moment. But now's the time. If you're not sure, on mute, shout it out, or place it into chat, and we'll see what's what from there. All right, let me go ahead and the meeting is only 1 day per week. All right, so let me try to explain how this actually works. There are no required meetings. It's really just this first meeting, this initial meeting that is mandatory. I do not do online lectures on a regular basis for an online class. All our material lives in Canvas. So you are expected to work your way through that material. I will be interacting with you via announcements, messages, and the like, But there are no regular required lectures. This is what we call an asynchronous course. That means there is no set time for meetings. It is entirely up to the student to work their way in a timely fashion through this material. And again, I will keep you on track in terms of timeline, but there's no direct lecture time available this semester for this course. By the way, if people do want a face-to-face course, I have two, that's four, I have two other face-to-face stat classes that I'm sure I can find room for people if they'd like to switch. I'm not saying they should, but if you do decide that that might work better for you, it is online, it is face-to-face on the main campus, and you can check it out in pause. So, having said that, let me come back to pause. There we go. All right. So let's see. We're still in the student view. That's all right. So everything we need is over here on the far left, not the far left, but over here on the left. Modules, that's where all your material will live, and I'll get there in a moment. We have announcements. I just want to hit that real quickly because we have two announcements in there. One is the welcome for this particular course and the initial mandatory meeting I just referenced. We also have discussions, and I'll go over this discussion in just a few moments. We also have grades. Students will be able to see their grades. They'll be able to see what's been graded and what hasn't been graded and the grade they've gotten. And then we have a couple of other links here. We have a link to our college library, where the books live. At least I guess they still live there. Tutoring. This is, again, our math lab. Online Panther Learning Lab. So anything we want to do, we can get to right here. We also have a couple of other links that I truly do not use in this semester. I do not use the embedded Zoom. I find that confusing. And the Follet Discover and the OLI Taurus, I don't use those either. Now, let's come over here to the modules. I have my course organized into modules. In a few moments, I'll go ahead and leave the student view and give you a broader view of the course. But right now, you have access to the first handful of assignments. Part 0 is just your introduction. This is a way to get people into the course. We have an instruction set. It's very, very basic. We want you to read the syllabus. We want you to complete your Chapter 0 course shell assignment, and I'll go over that myself. In fact, we'll do it together, the first one, or you'll watch me do it. I'd like you to read the challenges of online learning, and I want you to complete the initial online check-in discussion. There will also be an initial quiz. And when we get down here, you'll see me go through the keystrokes, but homework assignments and submissions. We want to complete all the exercises. We will have you upload an image of your choosing as noted in Chapter 0 and complete the online check-in discussion. As for assessments, we have Quiz 0 and called out separately. So every chapter looks pretty much like this. There is detail. There are tasks. There is called out assignments and assessment. And it should never be a mystery what is due and when it is due. It should be pretty clear. So let me come over here now back to modules, or I can work my way through with the next key down here in the lower right-hand corner. You can go in both directions. You can use the modules to run between the various pieces of each individual module. But here's the challenge of the online learning. I will let you read that at your leisure. Once you've read the challenges of online learning, we're off to the first assignment. So this is your first initial assignment. You want to read the challenge of online learning, the course syllabus, and then some submissions. Now, this is the first of many embedded videos we have. It's probably a little out of date, but if you click on it, you will be called into, oh, look, there I am. Yep, that's from last semester. That'll be just fine. I'll let you go ahead and take a look at that. Now, let's take a look at here at our submissions. This is how I handle our homework. And this is really a place where your smartphone can honestly be quite helpful. You don't need a smartphone, by the way. Not everyone has one. I understand that. But if you do have one, it will work very well. So my first requirement is to submit an image of your choosing. And I can't overemphasize that. It's pretty much any picture you want to send to me. Follow the prompts in the video, and it can be pretty much any image. You're going to be submitting images of your course assignments this semester. So now if I go to next, we get to our next assignment here. This is the initial online course check-in. Some people have already responded. I need your name. We have this built in. And notice what it says. Students who do not respond by late PM on Wednesday, 8:30 will be dropped. This is that 72-hour window. And by the way, you can jump right to this as soon as you want to. There's no reason you can't. It is worth 5 points. So you not only get to stay in the class, but you get to go ahead and get 5 points. Let me come back here to modules. And I want to again note the general outline here. We have an instruction set. We have material that is important to the topic at hand. We have an initial assignment. And the little icons can tell you what is going on. These are just pages, but you get the little, like, it's hard to see here. Maybe I should zoom in for a little bit more. There we go. We have an assignment here. So let me go ahead and open that first assignment up again. And you'll note that after you've taken a look at that assignment, right up here, it says, start the assignment. So you've looked at the video and you're ready to make your submission. So start the assignment. You're going to upload a file. I can choose a file. I'll pick a pretty picture. I'll put that in. If I have another file to add, I can add that right away. And there we go. Then I can go ahead and submit the assignment. It grades automatically. You see, oh, the little camps, oh, look, the little panda. I hadn't seen that panda before. I think that's new. So that is literally how you submit your homework. You will have pictures. Let me stop my sharing for just a moment. You'll have your homework in front of you. You'll take pictures. You'll upload your pictures. And this is where the iPhone smartphones really work well. Get into Canvas with your smartphone, take your picture, upload it right away, and you're done. All right. So let me get back to the module. Excuse me. So as I say, that is your first assignment, is really just running through the process of submitting an image, which is how you submit all your homework this semester. You have your online check-in, and then you have your first quiz. Now, as I say, your quizzes are available in a particular window. And by the way, let me jump back up to the first assignment. There's one other thing I want to point out about our first assignment that also holds true for our semester. Up at the top, it's available through the 2nd of September. You see that there, right? It's due the 1st of September, but it's available through the 2nd. So you can turn your assignment in up to 1 day late. There is no penalty whatsoever. It does show up late when you look at it, but it doesn't hurt in any way, shape, or form. And the same is true for our quizzes. It's due the 1st. It's available right away. You can actually take it right away. And it's available through the 2nd. So even though it's due the 1st, you can access it all the way through the 2nd without any sort of issue or penalty of any sort. Now, this is really your first introduction to how I like to run my quizzes. Clearly, they're online, but this covers material in your course syllabus. You have 30 minutes, and the quiz is open book and open notes. And a hint here is to print out a copy of the course syllabus. Students are expected to work alone, and you will have a single attempt. Once you take the quiz, depending on the types of questions in the quiz will grade itself. But most of the time, I have to dip in and grade 1 or 2 questions myself. But once you're ready to take the quiz, realize you have 1 attempt. Also, do realize that once you start your quiz, you must continue to the end. You cannot stop the quiz, go somewhere else onto the internet, and then restart the quiz. You have a 30-minute window, and that is that. So once you're ready, you can take the quiz, and this is basically the way it works. So, first question, our course requires this calculator. This is a multiple choice quiz. Can I borrow a calculator from the library? Yes, until supplies run out. How do I do that? Fill out the form, and then you're on to your next question. Once you're ready to finish, you can submit your quiz. Yes, I know I did not go through the entire quiz. It says you got 3 unanswered questions. You sure you want to quit? Yeah, I do. I've done this one before. So, quiz was saved. There we go. We have a score 3 out of 10. The kept score is 3 out of 10. So, we have correct answers that will be available. Students will be able to see the correct answer at some point in time, and this is pretty much true for all our quiz and exam questions. There will be a window of opportunity to view the results up until the very last week of the semester. Now let me come back here to our modules again. That's quiz 0. You'll notice I already have a grade. That was me submitting that quiz. And it was me submitting the image. Now, let's come down here. This is where the material begins in earnest. This is the first bit of material for our semester that is specific to statistics. And let me just say that statistics is very much different than other math classes you may have had in the past. It is very, very vocabulary heavy. A lot of vocabulary, crazy amounts of vocabulary. Guess what chapter 1 is all about? Vocabulary. Okay, so this is the way this plays out, and it plays out this way for pretty much every chapter we cover. There is an instruction set. We have you read the material in chapter 1 from your mostly harmless statistics. We have you read the Chapter 1 lecture summary and technical detail page. I'll get to that next. We have the homework problem set. That's very much like what we just saw. I'll go through that also. We have a vocabulary quiz. What is really important about the vocabulary quiz is the word right here. What's that word? That word is practice. This vocabulary quiz lives there in your module all semester long. It is there entirely for practice. The grade never makes it into your final grade, and it's available through most of the semester, I believe. Then we have a review assignment that hits the high points for the material, and then we have a chapter quiz. So let me come back here to modules. Every chapter has a lecture summary and technical detail. This is very, very in-depth, and it is essentially equivalent to your text. It is a page, it's not an assignment, but it is a summary and an analysis of all the material in Chapter 1. We cover sections 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. We have things to do that should promote success. And then we have the material itself. 1.1, we have our vocabulary introduction. So this is all about vocabulary. We have examples worked in to this particular page. We have that throughout the entire semester for all our chapters. We have detail on the numeric or the math material that is needed. Oh, here's the PowerPoint lecture. If you want, you can look at the PowerPoint lecture. But I will note that that PowerPoint lecture goes back a couple of 3 years now from before I had the free text. So the material does not line up perfectly, but it's really pretty close, so I don't mind including it. More vocabulary, section 1.2. We introduce you to notation at this point in time. We have examples. More embedded lectures, should that be something you want to look at. We have a discussion on data types and sampling. So this is all the material in Chapter 1. This is all the stuff that's in your text. This is all the stuff that is in the homework. It is all the stuff that you'll be quizzed on or have on your exam. The biggest challenge, again, is vocabulary. Look at all this vocabulary. There is technically, I think, is what we would call a buttload of vocabulary, just a lot of it. So, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And this is how it gets done. Chapter 1 problem set. This is the actual assignment. Now, you can see when it is due. It is due when? September 5th. It will be available through the 6th, one extra day. So if I click on this, I see that we have, excuse me, we have a due date of September 5th. It's available through the 6th. And again, you can submit it up to a day late without sanction or issue or prompt or any sort of issue at all. We have exercises that come from our text. So this comes from our text, mostly harmless statistics. But we also have online-based exercises. So you need to do problems from your text, and you need to do these problems also. And again, you'll write everything down, you'll take pictures, and then you can start the assignment, and you'll be asked to upload the assignment. I'll cancel that for now. Here is our Chapter 1 review. Actually, hold on. Let me come back actually to the homework for just a moment. In general, oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. No wonder. Duh, that's the first one. Let me close you off. You're annoying. There we go. In general, your text, mostly harmless statistics, has solutions in the back for some of the problems. And depending on the material, I also provide some solutions. Not for every section, not for every problem, but I'll gladly answer any questions students might have. Now, once we get to the chapter review, this is where I do provide explicit solutions. So students should be able to check their understanding as they work their way through a chapter review. By the way, this first chapter review is pretty freaking long. Why is that? It's like that because it's the vocabulary chapter. And then finally, we have quiz 1. It is not available yet. It is locked until September 5th. It will be available starting the 5th through the 6th. You'll have 45 minutes to take that quiz. And again, once you start, you cannot stop, and you must work alone. Is it open notes? Is it open book? Yes, all my quizzes and exams are open note and open book. Now, let me come back here one last time to modules. I'm going to leave the student view and go back to my view. Now, this is what I see. There's part 0. The green means that you guys can see it too. Here's part 1, Introduction to Statistics. Here's chapter 1. This is what's available. The vocabulary is all in here. You can see your first quiz. You can see all of this good stuff. Then we have our chapter 2. And again, you're going to note that it follows the same general trajectory. Instruction, lecture, and summary. Let me click on this and take a look at this. We again have embedded videos, for example, on how to use your calculator to run through various displays. So again, I cannot overemphasize the fact that you have access to all your material right there, as well as the link provided to your mostly harmless statistics. There's your vocabulary review. Now, none of the material is available yet. It will become available as we work our way through. In fact, I'm going to publish most of it by the end of the week. And our first module, part 1, goes through chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and then we have our first exam. There's exam 1. Oh, it says September 7th. That's not right. We're going to have to change that. But there we go. We have a review and everything. That's a lot that's different. I'll fix that later. In any case, none of that is published. That's why it's all off in terms of dates. You will be able to see when everything is due or available. So it's never, ever a mystery. And there we go. Let me stop my sharing. And note that down here below, there's part 2. Chapters 4, 5, and 6, 3, 7, 8, and 9, and then the last section or module, chapter 12, and then we jump back and do week 10 and 11. And then we have our final exam module. Now, let me stop my sharing. Do I want to stop it just yet? Yeah. No, I don't. I want to go right back there. Sorry. We're almost out of time. I'll wrap this up in just a moment. Usually, I only publish one module at a time. I do not publish all of this stuff at once at the beginning of the semester. That just sort of leads to brain freeze. So really, students want to focus on the chapters that are currently available and wait for the material in future modules to be published. But it's my job to stay on top of that. I will say that sometimes things do get unpublished or need to be published. Often I only know that when my students tell me. If you think something needs to be published, for heaven's sakes, poke at me via email and we'll take a look at it. The other thing I want to say is the Chapter 3 material. This is where we really use our calculators for the first time. So Chapter 3 is where we need our calculators. We don't need them until Chapter 3, and that's really about week 3. So you got a little bit of leeway to pick up your calculator, but then we go over all of this good stuff. And you'll need your calculator to deal with all this fun. So, Chapter 3 is the line in the sand for the calculators. And there we go. I see there's something in chat here. Regarding submissions for homework and reviews, could we list the questions numerically, alphabetically, online exercises, rather than writing out the entire assignment? Oh, I'm kind of glad you mentioned that. You just want to submit the answers to me. You don't want to write out these questions. Pretty much every question we look at this semester is a word problem of some sort. If you write questions out, it gets extremely long. You can just go through the questions in order and just write down the solutions and give me the section and the question number, and that'll be fine. You'll have separate submissions for homework and for reviews. They come up under different windows, so that's usually not an issue. Does that answer that question? I believe that was Anise that asked that. Cool. Okay, good. Yeah. And like I say, um, I don't want the homework to be an issue, right? To turn in. That's where it needs to be simple and cheap. A lot of my fellow instructors use some sort of homework software like turn it into something else, Alex or something like that. That costs money. Costs lots of money, and it adds a layer of complexity that is, in my opinion, entirely unnecessary. So get a hold of the calculator. If you have questions, definitely reach out. Look for links to our Zoom office hours. They'll be available on a regular basis. I will remind you that if you came to this meeting tonight, don't worry about tomorrow's meeting. When we're done here, I believe I recorded this. I should be able to post the recording, and I'll repost it both in section 1093 and 1113. So you should, at the end of the day, well, at the end of the next couple of days, have a couple of videos for these two initial meetings. They're going to be about the same, but things always play a little different. All right. Are there any further questions, or shall we just say goodbye? Goodbye? Right on. Goodbye. You all be well, and reach out. Reach out. Don't go through this alone. Be well.